Boards and booze, booze and boards, drinks and beers, fight some hordes. Drank too much, forgot our swords, ran back home, filled our gourds, got drunk again, sang some chords. Boards and booze and boards, with Mickey and Jeb.
Oh, we don't have a...
Nothing funny.
I
don't have a princess crown to put on. Oh darn.
Haley, do you have a tiara? Jeb wants to wear it.
Hey everyone, Booze and Boards, Mickey and Jeb. As you can, I'm probably going to leave it in.
As you can see, what?
Well, I was going to leave in the part about you yelling for Haley for the tiara. And I was going to say, as you can see, I don't have a tiara to wear for Heart of Crown.
Heart of Crown.
Yep. It's the new, one of the new Japanime games.
Yeah, they just had a couple new ones that come out. But anyways, it's it was Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know the background behind them, I don't remember if we explained it in Tanto, but usually what that company does is they take Japanese games and they translate them into English and then they distribute them over here.
Yep.
In a nutshell, right?
Yeah, we started with Tanto, and then after that we just kind of like followed them, and whatever they released, we would decide whether or not we get them.
Jeb has Barbarossa too, right? I don't.
Yeah,
have
I've
that
got
one.
Barbarossa and Alamine, I think is the whatever. But yeah,
Yep.
This is the next one. Both Mickey and I backed it. A quick rundown on it. It is a deck building game. Recommended 13 and up. Playtime's 30 to 60 minutes. That can vary depending on who you're playing with, and then number of players is 2 to 4. So,
Yep.
I guess should we say what it's about? I mean,
Sure, tell them what it's about, Jeb.
What is it?
I'll let you talk because it's anime, and you like anime.
Yeah, but I don't like talking.
I talk a lot.
Okay, then I should get my talk in now,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so Heart of Crown is about this kingdom where the king has fallen, he died, whatever. I think they say he died.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a bunch of princesses who are possible successors to the crown, and this game is about you backing one of the princesses to become the next queen.
Because they need somebody in charge before the land falls to evil again.
Right.
That's basically the gist of it. Quick shout out to Board Game Brawl because that's how I heard about the game. Told it to Jeb. Since it's anime, he was going to back it probably anyways. But it was one of his favorite deck builders, and fellow reviewer person. I like deck builders, so
Yeah.
I didn't know much about the game, but I just kind of jumped on board anyways with having liked Tanto. And if you watched our Origin reviews, what we did at Origins, we did get to play test this, and we were both glad that we backed it.
Yep.
But, I mean, we'll save the details for the review part of it. But anyways, it has arrived, and we are going to jump. Oh, and Jeb got.
I get to show off the spiffy playmat that came with the Kickstarter. Well,
he
it was an
got it
add-on.
as an add-on.
Yeah,
He
but
spent extra money because he's got a mat obsession.
he's jealous of this one though.
Yes, this is the first mat I wish I had actually bought. It looks really nice. They didn't do the over art, I'll call it. Like, you can see all the spaces clearly. It looks like there's plenty of room. Certainly not necessary if you've played some deck builders. Once you know the layout of stuff, you can just put the cards out. But, the mats are nice in terms of being able to pick up cards and keeping everything in the same place, that type of thing. And like Jeb said, it's a very pretty mat. They did a good job on that.
And we'll be playing on it.
Yeah,
so.
we'll play on it, and Haley will be joining us to play.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to crack into the components, which are pretty much going to be cards, and then real quick, and then the gameplay / what the cards do and things like that, and then we'll jump into a full game of Heart of Crown.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to go over the components for Heart of Crown. So let's start with...
Cards and tokens, the end!
Yes, that is pretty much everything for a deck builder. And some deck builders don't even have tokens. So. All right, so let's start with the starter cards, because that's what is in their name, start. So.
Yep, so Heart of Crown is a 10-card starter deck, and you use farming villages and apprentice mages, or maids, not mages. We're not a fantasy game here. So you get 7 farming villages,
Yep.
and you get 3 of the apprentice maids. Real quick on these cards, that's the cost of the cards, although
The top left is the cost.
doesn't really make a difference since it's the starting ones, except for referencing values of cards. Other cards will reference a value of a card, so that's why it's on those, even though they're starters.
Yeah.
That big coin in the center is the economy if you play the card. This down here is called a succession, which we'll get into a little bit later, but basically it's part of the win condition of the game.
Yeah, the big number
Right.
on her, and then there's actually a
minus
-2
2
on
right
that one.
is what
Those are called succession points.
Right.
So that's what pretty much victory points.
And there'll be a Jeb will put a pop-up here, and you'll be
oh
able
yeah,
to notice
I've already put the pop-up. So.
that both of these starting cards have negative values for the succession points, which is kind of a big deal, because once we get into the explanation of how to play this game, it makes the starting hand in this game really, really interesting, because not only are they annoying once you start playing, but the value of them sucks.
Yeah. Next up is the princess cards, because that's kind of another big deal for this game.
Right. So, you have 6 princess cards, and I'm not going to go over each one of them, but
They all cost 6.
Yeah, they all do cost 6.
Yep.
That's true. Although one I think reduces its cost when you buy it. But that being said, they all have some kind of ability. Most of them have some kind of power, either a one-time thing or an ongoing or whatever. This princess on the top just has a really decent amount of succession points if you take her. So you can use a lot of different strategies in the game when you decide to back a princess.
Next up are the rare cards, which there's not many of them.
There are 2 rare cards, and the whole point of them is they're just really high-cost cards, hard to acquire, and then they're just worth a lot.
Okay, so next up are common cards, which we only have 1 stack out right now, but actually when you play the game you're going to have a lot more. We'll show you when we do the setup.
Yep. So the common cards make up the meat of the game. They are what you will purchase throughout the game. Again, purchase cost, what the card does in the middle, and then if you can't see where I'm pointing to, again, Jeb will have a nice pop-up for you.
Yep.
But these arrows, they're yellow arrows on the card, either on the side or on the bottom, and they're called links. And basically, if a card has a link, that means you can play another card. If that doesn't make sense, when we go over gameplay, it'll make more sense. But basically, that's how you link cards together in this game. If you're familiar with the standard buy or play a card then buy a card or whatever.
Yeah, like
it's kind of that.
A standard deck builder, you just play all the cards in your hand, but this one you actually have to link stuff together, so you might not. But we'll get to that later. Next up are the succession cards.
Okay. And similar to the apprentice maid that you start with, your succession cards have succession points, except they're all positive values. They're the ones that you acquire outside of the ones that you start with. So we have the royal maid, the senator, and the duke, varying costs of 3, 5, and an 8, and succession points worth 2, 3, and 6.
All right. Next up are the other territories that you can buy in the game.
So territories are they serve 2 purposes in the game. You need a territory. You don't need a territory. You probably want territories when you back a princess, because you can use them for other things. that we'll get into in gameplay, but they are also economy in the game. So that one's, if you play that card, you get 2 coins for the turn, and if you play that one, you get 3 coins for the turn. Your money doesn't carry over, just so you know. And that one costs 3, that one costs 6. And both of them have the link arrows on it, so that makes it nice.
And then the next type of card are the calamity cards.
So these are the bad cards in the game. Usually they'll this is just a basic one. This is called a curse. It does absolutely nothing except clog your hand. So that's always bad in a deck builder, to have a dead card in your hand. There are other calamity cards. We will probably be just playing with the curse card.
And then there are the randomizer cards, which Japanime Games has been really good with all their deck builders in including these.
The randomizers have a different color back, so that you'll know if you shuffle them in by accident. But basically it's just one copy of all the common cards, so that if you want to play a game that's like totally random, you're just going to select 10 of these and then pull the appropriate cards out from your supply to form the market deck.
And that's it for all the cards. What's left are the counters that come with the game. There's 4 or 5 different types. Let's start with the twin counters, or I think that's what they're called.
The twins are princess in the game. There's 4 counters for the twins. I think that, if I remember right, there's something you can do with her 4 times.
I think like 3 times.
3 times.
She gets 3 counters. I think the 4th is just like
an extra. Okay,
yeah.
Then it's 3 times. I knew she had a power, so basically if you use it, then you take a counter off. Once you have any more counters, you can't do it anymore.
Alright, so next up are the debt counters.
These are, I don't even know what's in the middle of those.
It looks like 4 coins. Maybe.
Yeah, it looks like a fruit to me. I'm serious. Look real close.
I know. Now that
it's
you
like
say
a
it.
Fruit. Anyways, they're debt counters. We haven't played with anything that uses the debt counters yet, but I can imagine it's not good.
Next up are the succession counters.
Right.
Which,
so these can be actually they're called succession counters, but they can also be used to track your gold, which in my opinion is very, very useful once you get out of the basic stages of after you've run through a couple turns and your deck starts to get complicated. It's really nice to actually pull gold over and spend it as you go along, so that you're not like, oh crap, I mathed wrong, or I forgot what I did, or I want to back up a second. As long as you're playing in an environment where nobody's going to freak out if you're like, oh, I played that the wrong way.
There's actually common cards that have effects that say like pay 1 to do something, or pay 2, so it helps in that situation as well.
Exactly. And a lot of deck builders don't have this type of token in it, and so sometimes remembering when you string a whole bunch of cards together can be difficult. I kind of like that, even though they call them succession tokens. I actually use them for, which actually I think in the rule book it does say you can use it for either or. I think it's a nice feature. Last but not least, we have
the coal counters, I think.
Coal or. They're or counters, and they're for one of the expansions, so we're showing it to you, but we're not even going to touch on the expansions, other than Jeb and I got both of them.
Yep. And then lastly is the Heart of Crown bag.
Which, oh gee, did they rip off Crown Royal a little? I don't know.
It feels the exact same too.
It's felty and it's purple. I mean, I think they should have given us a little bottle with the game. That's what I think.
But yeah, I think that's everything for components, aside from the rule book, and then they actually provided cardboard dividers.
Yep, they did a nice job with the box. It holds everything.
Oh, it holds the expansions as well.
Holds the expansions. They gave dividers for everything. They gave extra dividers. They gave the foam things to put in the box to make sure that everything doesn't slide around. And I believe that I did read in the comment section that the box will hold everything sleeved.
Oh, okay.
I believe I read that. Noticing how much room is left with the expansions in like it is, I would tend to
I would
believe
think
that it would.
Yeah.
And the box is thick.
Yeah, it's
too.
a thick box.
It's very nice.
Okay, so I think they probably have enough of the components, so let's go into setup. Oh, look at that. The playmat just magically appeared on the table.
Oh, I gotta listen to the playmat thing the whole game. 'Cause I got a playmat and you didn't.
Alright, so let's talk about setup, Mickey. The first thing that you will do is set out all the princess cards. So,
Alright,
like we said, there's 6 of them.
We have the 6 of them, and I'll put it on Jeb's pretty little playmat. There, Jeb.
Oh, wow. They fit perfectly. Next up is to set out the curse cards. So if you're playing a version of the game that has curses or uses curses, this is when you'll do that. And in the rulebook it says that the number of curses used are 4 times the number of players.
So you probably just want to, if you're going to go totally random, just put the things out.
Yeah.
And if you use them, great, and if you don't, you don't. So well, we're going to play with 3 people, so we're going to have 12 cards. 1, 2, 3, 11, 12. Oh, look at that. It's a 4-player game. There's exactly 4 left.
Nice.
I could have just taken 4 out.
That's true.
How about that, Jeb?
Well, you know that now, right?
Yeah.
And now all the viewers know it too, so it saves them
hey.
like 10 seconds.
Okay.
Alright, next is the starting decks are going to be made for each player. And to do that, Mickey,
I'm only going to do 1, so it's 3 apprentice maids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, it's a 10 card.
7 farming villages.
7 farming villages. It's a 10 card starter. Each person will get one of these and they'll shuffle it up.
Yep, so that makes your starting deck. Next is to set up the basic market. And as you can see on the playmat that Mickey didn't get, it has
Funny
pictures
man.
of everything for the basic market.
Alright, and
So we'll
start
read those
putting
off. It's Senator, Duke, Royal Maid, I believe.
Yep.
City, large city, and then the curses are already there. Okay, and then the next part is creating the supply pile.
Just a matter of wording in the game. Notice that this is random market, this is basic market. If a card refers to the market, all of it's the market.
Yep. Alright, so the supply pile, how you're going to do this, there are multiple ways. In the rulebook, there's like a suggested cards to use to build this. There's also different types.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of
recommended
levels.
card
That was
sets, yeah.
not a lot of games do that. So we're going to play what, Jeb?
Intermediate.
Right.
And before I read those cards, what you're going to do for this step is to take 10 of the common cards and grab all 5 copies of each of those to make the 50 card deck. Or, well, it's going to be 52, but right now 50. So I'll read off the 10 for intermediate. It is Scout. So Mickey's going to grab 5 Scouts. Contribution, Magic Talisman, Supply Unit, Library.
I'm pretty fast at this, Jeb.
Yeah. Stargazing Witch. Not like anyone helped you, right? Evicted Monster. Government Contractor. Imperial Estate. And the Curse Witch. So what you're going to do is take those and shuffle them. Oh,
and
right.
what, Jeb?
There's something important we didn't say. Before you shuffle, you're going to add the 2 rare cards.
Because when we played our first game, even though we already knew how to play, we forgot to put them in.
Yes.
Now you shuffle them all together.
So it's going to be a 52 card deck, and yeah, that was kind of embarrassing.
It really was.
When we got to almost the end of the game, and we were like, wait a second, there's no rare cards in the deck.
Oh, and can I just mention, since somebody's going to make fun of me about their mat the whole game, on who cheats?
Oh, no. They don't need to hear this.
Oh,
right
yes,
now.
it's coming. Oh, well, I'll keep you guys in suspense, too, because once we go over gameplay, you will learn how Jeb cheats. And here's the beauty of it, people. He corrected me about doing the same thing and said I couldn't do it, and then did it the whole game. And I wasn't smart enough to call him out on it.
I didn't even realize it.
He's so, and then he
bad.
claims victory, and I'm like the next day, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I was gonna forget about that, didn't you? You were hoping I was gonna forget.
All right, so you got the deck shuffled.
I think so.
Where do you put it?
I'll tell you where I gotta put it. In the middle.
Yes, in the middle. All right. Once that's there, you're going to fill the market. So the way you do this, Mickey, you want to explain it to him?
Yeah, sure. So, when you fill the market, at the beginning of the game, basically you just start filling all the spaces around. If you don't want to do it around, just make sure you only have 8 piles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? So, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could slip that up there. It doesn't matter. But you need 8 piles, and here's the key to it. We just start filling in the 8 piles with cards.
When you see a different card, you put it in a different spot.
Exactly. And, okay, here's our first card that matches a card that's already out. So, we put it on top of the one that's already out. And we keep filling until all the spaces have something. We need one more, people. We need one more. I think that's it. Okay, so that's how that works. And when a pile gets empty, you will fill it in.
At the end of that player's turn.
At the end of the turn, that's right. It's not an immediate.
So after you've filled the market, there is not much left to do for setup. What you will do is determine the first player, which you can do however you want to do.
Yeah.
And then after you determine that, the play goes clockwise order.
Right.
And then after that, everybody draws their hand of 5 cards.
Yeah, so you're going to shuffle your starters, like I said. You draw 5, and then you're ready to begin the game. One other spot on the mat that we didn't note is called outskirts over here. Basically, this is the out of play pile, where you can chuck cards that have been banished from the game. I think banish is the word they use in this game. I don't remember. The point is, it's out of the game. If you don't have the mat, there's actually a card that looks like this spot that you can actually put on the table, which is kind of cool because a lot of games don't do that. It's just you just throw it aside. That's not a big deal. It's just a nice little touch that it adds to it. So that is it for setup.
All right, so we are going to go over gameplay for Heart of Crown. And a quick overview is the players just take turns until the game ends, and we'll go over the ending conditions in a little bit, but it's like most games, you just keep going around the table. So, on your turn, Mickey already has 5 cards in hand. The first phase of your turn is the main phase. And in this, you're going to select an action card or a territory card, and you play it. After you play it, if there is a link on it, then you can play another card. So I'll let Mickey play his hand out right now.
Alright, so as you know, we don't have much to start with, but I do have my farming villages. And a link, play another farming village, a link, another farming village, a link, and another one, a link. The last card I have is a succession card, which is nothing, pretty much, because in the main phase, we don't have the option to do succession. But I can hold this in my hand.
Yep. And then also during the main phase, the action is to keep a card, but we'll talk about that later. So anyway, main phase, the first thing you're going to do is play your cards. Alright, next is your second phase. So you have 3 options during this phase of things you can do. You can either buy cards in the market, you can back a princess, or you can play succession cards into your domain. So the first thing is buy cards in the market.
Okay, so that's easy enough. Alright, when I played these, I got 4 coins. I can buy whatever I can afford in the market. I could buy that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one. So If I want 2 cards, I could take both of those. Notice that if I do take both of these, they will go straight to my discard, and these will not refill till the end of my turn. So I don't get to like, ooh, I'm going to take this, flip this over, and see if it's something else that I might want that's better than what's out on the board. Doesn't work like that. You can, however, buy as many as you want as long as you have the money to do so. So I have options once you get to know all the cards on what kind of strategy you want to build your deck around based on what these abilities are, or I can go straight for getting some better economy. So if I have a 3, I could take that city card and put that in my hand.
You cannot buy curse cards. Those
Right.
are actually brought out through card effects.
Right. Even though it is a 0, again, is for a reference in case cards reference the cost of a card. You know that it costs 0, even though it's not like I can on my turn, oh, it costs 0, I'm just going to take all the curses because I'm a fool. Anyways, it doesn't work like that.
And the key thing to remember is that you can buy as many cards as you want that you can pay for.
I
So,
said that.
oh, you did?
I did say that. You're
okay.
repeating me.
All right. Well, they got to remember that.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Because if they play Tonto, then... All right. So,
Yes, Tonto's more like a Dominion type of thing where you have to get a power that lets you buy an extra card.
Yeah. All right, so that was the first option you can do in the second phase.
Right.
The second option is to back a princess.
Okay.
Let's pretend Mickey had a city in his hand as well and played it.
Well, I mean, you can actually use these. They are territories.
Yeah, but you only have 4 money right now.
That's true. Just to go along with what Jeb said about the market and buying as many as you want, what he's getting into now with these other things, this is, what's the phase called?
The second phase?
Yeah, the second phase. I had a hard time remembering that the second phase is outside of this phase.
Yeah, the main phase.
Because it's and it's kind of crucial to remember that before you make your decision in this phase about the buying of the cards and stuff like that, remember, you get to play everything first.
Yep.
Then you decide, am I going to buy, am I going to do what we're going to go over right now, which is the princess, or doing successions.
Yes.
Okay, so we're pretending that I had this card in my hand also.
Is that where you play that, Mickey?
No, I'm just showing them that it's different, but no, it goes over on the end of the arrow. Still had a spot over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have 6, which is exactly enough for a princess. So at that point, if I want to, I can pick up the pile of princesses, look through them, decide which ability do I want, and I can back the princess. I am just going to take this one, because Jeb handed it to me. Alright, so when I back a princess, I buy the princess. I put it over to the side, which is going to be called my domain, and then I take the 3 highest territories that I played during the turn. And the answer to the question, do you have to have a territory to do that action? No. It'd be tough to do it.
You're right.
Because you'd have to have a lot of non-territory cards that generate money to do it. But the rules do say that you don't need the territory to do it. So, in this case, I carry over the city because it's the highest, and then all I have left is farmage, so I take 3. So, if I only had 2 and I had 6, I could still do it. If I only had 1, or if I had none, but I had 6 coins, I would be able to set up my domain. I now have a backed princess. I am now set up to be able to win the game because I have backed a princess. And this princess gives me succession points too, so that's a bonus.
Alright, so the third option you can do during the second phase, you can only do if you already backed the princess, and it's called playing succession cards into your domain.
Okay.
So Mickey actually has one in hand, so...
I do. It happens to be a negative succession, but if I wanted to, on my turn, I could take any, all, whatever I wanted.
as many as you want from your hand.
Like, you can keep some if you want to, though.
So
right?
you don't have to.
So as long as they have a succession, I can now remember, this is aside from, if I do this, I can't buy.
Right, because buying is a separate action.
Exactly. So I take all the succession points that I want to, and I put them over in my domain. That starts accumulating points. The object of this is to get to 20 succession points, and then you do a coronation.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit.
But
yeah,
why are we doing succession points? That's what we're trying to do here. Notice that in this case, because I have all these minuses in here, even though my princess was 6, right now I'm at 0 because these 3 are -2 each. So I actually right now have no succession points. Why in the world would anybody ever put any of these over there? Well, it is one way to get them out of your hand. If you don't have any economy that's letting you banish these cruddy cards, it's a way to thin your deck. It's maybe not the best, but if that's all the option you have, it is legal to do that. They're just worth negative, and you have to get more. So ideally, you'd like to get like dukes over here with like 6s. If you got a 6 over there, now I'm at a +6.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the succession phase.
Okay, so just to reiterate, there's 3 things you can do. You can either buy from the market, you can back a princess, and that's only if you don't have a princess.
That's right.
You can't back another. And then the last thing is, if you have a princess, you can play succession cards.
Right.
So it's one of those 3.
Right. And now I would like to back up to what Jeb mentioned during the main phase, now that we have a domain.
Yes. Yeah.
Jeb mentioned, if you remember, he said something about keeping cards. Okay? A very interesting mechanic to this game is, what that means is you are allowed to, in your domain, if I have a card in my hand that I either can't play or I think it might be more beneficial to play later on, you can do, during the main phase, what is called keeping in card. You can put any number, not any number, you can put a card on each territory in your domain with a value equal to or lower than the cost of that domain.
That territory. You were so good. You had everything except that last word.
Alright. So the city costs 3. I have a card here that we just randomly found that costs 2. So that means if I wanted to hold this, I could put it here and continue with my main phase, play out my hand. That would be sitting there for a future turn. Doesn't have to be the next turn. It can be 3 turns down the line. Whenever you want during your main phase, you can pick it back up.
Yep, it's only during the main phase where you can keep it or take it back.
Right.
I guess recall is the term.
Yeah. In these cases, the only things I would be able to put down here would be action cards that cost 1, and honestly, I don't think there are any.
Not that I've seen.
Not the best thing to have in your domain, but this is a really powerful mechanic just to be able to store cards to the side. So that is what the keep and recall function is during this game. Remember, it's during the main phase. Cards in your hand equal to or less than the amount of the territory, you're allowed to put it on top. If I remember correctly, if it's stored, there are cards...
There are defensive cards.
Right. They can't target stuff in your domain, but they can target stored cards or something like that.
Yeah.
So just to keep that in mind, that's probably a technicality that you guys can ask us a question if you really need to know the answer on something like that.
And I'm really going to regret this next thing I'm about to say, but Mickey, what kind of cards can you store on territories?
Action cards. Action cards. That's how Jeb cheats. He puts other cards on top of the territories. So, I'm going to say the majority of the stuff from the market.
The random market.
Yeah, the random market is an action card. These are successions and territories and curses, or calamities actually, what they're called. So these, as long as, it's very hard to see, but the side of the cards has what they count as.
Yeah.
So, and they might have subcategories, but as long as the word action is in there, you can use the keep/recall feature.
All right, so that's everything for the second phase and stuff on the main phase. So after second phase, once you've done whichever action you
You wanna
chose,
keep that over there?
yeah, you can keep it.
All right.
You're going to go into the cleanup phase. And in this phase, all you do is discard all the cards that you played and all the cards in your hand.
Okay. So, if you remember, we're going to pretend I actually didn't put this in the domain because that would be silly. This would still be in my hand because I didn't play it. These would be all that I had left because this time I didn't buy a card. I just made a princess, which that is impossible to happen first turn too.
Right.
And they would just go over to my discard, and I would draw.
That's your next
Oh,
phase,
sorry.
is the draw phase, where you draw up to 5 cards.
Draw up to 5 cards, which in
Which
this
it should
case is
always be, I would think.
the rest of my hand, because remember we started with 10 cards.
Yep. And then after the draw phase, there is a market refresh phase, which if there were any empty spaces in the market, you would fill them. And then after you fill them, it's the next person's turn, and so on and so on.
Great.
One quick thing to note, the reason why the cleanup phase is separate from the draw phase is because there's actually cards that have
Trigger.
effects that go off during
Right.
those different phases.
Most of the time it's going to be almost one of those simultaneous things.
Yeah.
So, Jeb said so on and so on.
Game end.
Touch a little bit more on game end, which I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
The win condition for the game is to have 20 succession points. When you do, you can declare a coronation.
ceremony.
And I believe you have to declare it too, because you don't have to do that.
Right. Once you hit 20, you do not automatically trigger it.
Right.
You have to say on your turn, I'm declaring it. It doesn't cost anything. You just have to say that you're at 20 points and you're doing a coronation ceremony.
So why, Mickey and Jeb, would it make a difference? Well, because everybody else gets a turn. So if you see somebody that's really close and you think they're going to be able to beat you, you might not want to declare your coronation until you have your hand set up or your deck set up the way that you want to. But the point is, 20 is the trigger number.
And then everybody gets one turn after you declare it.
Right. Now, if nobody else can get to 20 and have a coronation for their princess, then you'll win. If they do...
Yeah, this is where it gets kind of a little dicey. So if there's 3 people and one of them has 20 points to start the ceremony, the next person on the end of their turn, they get 18, so they're not enough. And then the next person gets 20. So there's 2 people that have 20 succession points. What happens is the person who does not have 20 or more, they're out of the game for the rest of the game. And then the people who are remaining keep playing until somebody hits 30 points. And the first person to hit 30 points is the winner.
Right. And I think there's... Can I see that for a second?
Yeah. There is a way to lose succession points. So there's 2 situations. The one is where you hit 20, declare the coronation, and nobody else is able to get to 20. If somebody knocks you down below 20 on their last turn, then your coronation ceremony gets canceled and you'll have to do it again when you get to 20. When it's a race to the 30 points, you can go below 20 and it doesn't stop it. It just keeps continuing until somebody hits 30. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it's a lot to take in.
So remember, it's not that coronation trigger. You wouldn't have to, but there's almost probably no reason not to, because if you can knock somebody out, you have a better chance of winning. I'm going into strategy. My point is that basically, if you can coronate after somebody else does, you get it. And it doesn't matter if, like, Jeb does the coronation first. He has 20 points. It comes around to me. He thinks I am not going to be able to do it, but I get 22. I don't win. We go to the playoff no matter what.
Yeah, it's called overtime.
Overtime. Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody in overtime will play to 30 succession points.
Right.
If there's actually a tie, there's one other way to end the game. And that's if all the senator, dukes, and royal maids their piles are empty.
If these piles are empty, the game ends and then it just goes 100% on succession points.
And that's succession points you have in your domain, not
right,
in your
not in your pile. I would like to point out that these piles are pretty deep, and these are not cheap cards. I would not that somebody couldn't come up with a combo. I would doubt very seriously that win condition happens very often, if ever. Or end game condition. It's not a win condition. It's an end game condition. But if all that stuff was gone, that would be impressive. Because that means everybody is hoarding and hoarding and hoarding and doesn't want to make a move.
And that's pretty much everything for the game, at least how to play it. There are some other things that I have notes on. In the rule book, there are terms that are defined that we didn't really go over because it's like a page full of terms. There's some other rules that they mention. There are defense cards that we haven't actually played with any yet, but they're ways to reduce damage done by attack cards.
Right.
And defense and attack cards are in the random market. If you
attack cards are going to be played like normal. The key to defense cards is that the majority of the time, I won't say all because I have no idea if they'll ever make a card that they word differently, but usually 99% of the time the way a defensive card works is all you have to do is show that you have it and then it blocks whatever attack. In this game, there are cards that basically reduce the amount of damage by the attack though, right?
So like if I played a card that made Mickey discard 3 cards, and he has a defense card that says reduced by 1, he can show it
and only get rid of 2 cards instead, which is a kind of interesting thing too.
And the key is that the defense card can be in your hand or a kept card on one of your territories in your domain. Mm-hmm. You just have to show it. Another thing are the Princess card's abilities. Mickey mentioned it really quick. There are effects that go off when you buy them. There's permanent effects, and then there's activation effects. And the activation ones you can declare in your main phase to use. And that's like the twins when you use their ability.
I thought there was some, well maybe
there might be
maybe it's the ongoing, maybe they lump it together, but I thought there was a trigger ability on.
Oh, there might be.
But it doesn't really matter. The point is that they could have a different ability. Just make sure you understand what your princess does is the key to that.
There are some cards that have hand activation abilities, and you only get the effect of that if you do not play the card in your main phase. So it has to remain in your hand, and you just show your opponents that you're activating that ability, and it stays in your hand. We haven't run into one yet. The next thing is replenishing the draw pile. So in most deck builders, when you draw a card or have to show a card in your deck and it's empty, if it's empty, then you shuffle your discard to recreate your deck. The rulebook actually was kind of weird about it, and they put out an errata that said it's like all the other deck builders.
If you, just in case you pick up the game, if you read the rulebook, it is, the way that it reads is you immediately shuffle your discard as soon as you can't, like, you have no draw pile.
Yeah.
You shuffle your discard. Most deck builders say that you don't do that until you need to draw something and you can't. Right. That is the way that this game is supposed to be played.
Yes.
So if you're watching us play and you're like, that's not what the rules say, it is the correct way to play.
Yep. If there's ever a point in the game where you're trying to resolve multiple effects, the order that you do that is from top down and then in player order. And then the last thing is curse cards cannot be bought, which we already said. That is everything for gameplay for Heart of Crown. So before we actually go into our play of a game, we did want to mention that there is an errata online. I found it on Board Game Geek. I don't know if they published it anywhere else, but there are erratas on cards that...
We've skimmed it.
Yeah.
So far, Jem and I don't think that it's game-breaking. It's irritating. That's
Yeah.
what we've come to the conclusion. And some of them are, and there's a couple that are more important than others. I think we're playing with one.
We'll let you know.
We'll let you know when we come across the cards if we're playing it. We want to put that out there. If you pick up the game, you will want to look up the errata, so you know exactly how the cards work.
Yeah.
It's not unreasonable for the Japanese games to come over and get mistranslated. Not that it's fun, but it happens.
We'll stop talking and we will get into a 3-player game on the intermediate setup.
Yep.
For Heart of Crown.
Yep.